I've built a number of virtual machine disk images that each contain a custom software development environment that I use for teaching programming in C++. This custom software development environment typically includes a recent version of both the GCC and Clang compiler toolchains. In this video, I'm going to show how this custom software development environment can be accessed using one of these VM disk images. So in this particular demo, since I use Linux typically, the actual VM software that I'm using is one of the popular packages that's available under Linux. Of course, you might be using different software, so the user interface for the software you're using will probably look quite different from mine, but at least this will give you a general idea about what things might look like. So the first thing I need to do is I need to boot up the virtual machine. So I've already set up the virtual machine's software so that it's using the disk image that I downloaded that contains the software development environment on it. So I'm going to first of all boot up the virtual machine so I can tell the virtual machine to run. And then we go to the boot screen. This is just the boot screen that's used for Fedora Linux. The particular disk image that I'm using is based on Fedora 31. And we wait for it to boot up, and it brings us to the graphical login screen. Now, depending on which VM disk image you're using, the username and password to log in will vary. Wherever it was that you downloaded the VM disk image from, it should also indicate what the username and password is for just a regular user, as well as the root administrator account as well. So I'm just going to log in here. And then it brings me to my graphical desktop. Now I'm going to open up a terminal window here and maybe increase the font size a bit and maybe make it full screen as well. So if I look at the various compiler versions that are installed natively in this VM disk image, so if I look at the version of the GCC compiler that's installed, you can see version 9.2.1, which is actually relatively recent at the time of making this video. If we look at the version of Clang that's installed, well, Clang isn't installed at all. And if I look at CMake version, it's version 3.14.5, which is relatively recent at the time of this video, but not the most recent version. Now what I've done is I've set up a software development environment inside this virtual machine disk image. By default, it's not enabled. But if you use the SDE shell script, so I'm going to invoke a program here called SDE shell, this thing here. The particular directory in which this program is located will vary from one VM disk image to another. In this particular VM disk image, it's under this directory opt SDE bin. But this may vary. Again, the location of this script will be indicated in the documentation for the VM disk image, wherever you downloaded this VM disk image from. So if I start up the SDE shell, what this does is it runs a subshell and sets up the environment such that it accesses the new versions of the compiler toolchains I've installed, as well as other software tools as well. And it visibly changed the prompt, shell prompt, just so that you're aware that you actually have started this new development environment. It gives you a visual indication that you're actually using it, just so that you know that you are. At this point, if we now look at the version of GCC that's available, you'll see it's a slightly newer version, 9.3.0, which is actually the most recent version at the time I'm making this video. If we look at the version of Clang that's installed, it's version 10, which is also the most recent version at the time of this video. And if we look at the version of CMake, for example, it's installed, it's version 3.17.1, which is also the most recent version at the time of this video. If I now type exit, this takes me out of the subshell that was set up with this software development environment. So at this point now, if I try to use the compiler and so on, it's going to pick up the natively installed versions that were part of the native operating system install that I did, which are not the ones that you want to use. So you always want to do all of your work using the environment that's set up by the SDE shell program. And that's a basic introduction to the software development environment and accessing it through the virtual machine. Of course, at this point, if I want, I can shut down. I can go back to the application menu, choose logout, and then choose shutdown. And this will just shut down the VM. And that's basically it.